There is a supply-demand disconnect, with the vast majority of automotive spending on the continent today essentially funding an international network of car exporters, instead of fueling the growth of local industry. It's entirely possible to solve this disconnect, though, starting with products that people actually want. And this is what motivated me to start Mobius, to build a vehicle in Africa for Africa.
It all began with the dream of a young British entrepreneur in his mid-20s, a vision to revolutionize transportation in Kenya by creating affordable, durable vehicles made in Africa for Africa. Mobius Motors wasn't just about building cars, it was about igniting hope, a promise to create millions of jobs and spark an industrial renaissance across the continent.
But once African industry starts to scale, the potential is huge. Better products, costing less, built locally, together creating millions of jobs.
For some time, the dream seemed unstoppable. Backed by billions in funding and widespread support, Mobius Motors positioned itself as Kenya's automotive trailblazer. But beneath the shiny surface of promise lay deep cracks that would eventually grow too large to ignore. What went wrong? How did they go from designing cars from scratch to importing and rebranding Chinese vehicles as made in Kenya, only to collapse under a mountain of debt despite raising over $7 billion in funding? In this episode, we'll delve into the rise and fall of Mobius Motors, exploring how Kenya's first automaker ultimately failed. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more stories from Kenya. Mobius Motors was officially founded in 2011, but its roots go back to 2009 when Joel Jackson began tinkering in a Nairobi garage. With a handful of Kenyan engineers and mechanics, he built the first Mobius prototype in 2010. A stripped-down, handmade car with a, let's just say, one-of-a-kind look. This early model had no doors, its soft windows resembled those on off-road vehicles, and it featured awkward fender flares on a basic steel frame. It was far from polished, but it was proof of concept. For many, the dream of a made-in-Kenya car had died with the collapse of the Nyayo Pioneer project in the 1980s. But Mobius rekindled that vision, daring to imagine a future where Kenya could produce its own vehicles tailored for its unique needs. In 2011, the first edition Mobius 2 prototype was designed with one goal: unmatched durability. Its bold, boxy, utilitarian design sparked strong reactions. People either loved it or hated it, much like Tesla's Cybertruck years later. The first version had no windows, bench-like rear seating where passengers faced each other, and ample space in the middle for luggage. The bench seats were foldable, making the car ideal for rural areas where practicality and durability mattered more than luxury. Stripped down to the essentials, it lacked unnecessary features to keep the price affordable, initially selling at around 1 million shillings. In September 2011, the Mobius 2 prototype embarked on a 2,500-kilometer road trip across Kenya. It tackled pothole-ridden dirt tracks, flooded paths, and steep, rocky inclines. Throughout the trip, it allegedly outperformed a popular 4x4 backup vehicle, which required repairs twice due to the harsh conditions. The Mobius, however, powered through without issues. Hand-building cars in a garage wasn't sustainable. If Mobius was going to scale, it needed cash, lots of it. So Jackson turned to investors. Playfair Capital, a UK-based venture fund, was the first to back him. Then came Chandaria Industries, a Kenyan manufacturer, and later the United States-based Overseas Private Investment Corporation, OPIC, which provided a loan of around 500 million shillings. By 2015, Mobius had raised more than $6 billion across multiple funding rounds. The funds were used to set up a small assembly plant which enabled the launch of an improved Mobius 2, responding to customer feedback. The new version featured cleaner panels, improved build quality, power steering, glass windows, and air conditioning, making it more appealing to urban consumers. While these upgrades addressed some criticism, they also marked a shift away from the original vision of an affordable, rugged vehicle for Africans. With these additions, the price rose to 1.5 million shillings. This pivot diluted the car's uniqueness. Its value proposition was that it wasn't like other cars. Even with the shift, excitement remained high, with 300 units reportedly being pre-ordered, though conflicting reports suggest fewer than 100 may have been produced and sold. While initial campaigns focused on urban areas, they neglected the rural market, the very audience the vehicle was designed for. Joel Jackson's leadership was a double-edged sword. His vision and charisma attracted investors, but internal disagreements over the company's direction were inevitable. Shareholders debated whether to scale production or expand Mobius's product lineup to appeal to a broader market. Jackson had ambitious plans for the Mobius 2, aiming to make it modular and customizable for various needs, whether as a delivery vehicle, ambulance, or for public transportation. He believed this flexibility would enhance its appeal while creating local employment. However, despite these ideas, sales remained sluggish, raising doubts amongst board members. This skepticism may have contributed to Jackson stepping down as CEO, though he remained in the company's board. With Jackson stepping aside, Nicholas Guibert, a seasoned automotive executive, joined as COO. Guibert had previously worked at Jaguar Land Rover as Director of Manufacturing, overseeing plant operations and manufacturing strategies. His expertise was expected to refine Mobius's production processes, but the company still faced significant hurdles. By 2021, Mobius was at a critical juncture. Years of low sales and mounting losses pushed the company towards a desperate decision that reshaped its identity. The introduction of the Mobius 3 marked a fundamental departure from the company's founding vision. Unlike its predecessors, which were designed and built in Kenya, the Mobius 3 was essentially a rebadged Beijing BJ40, a Chinese off-road SUV produced by BAIC Motor. Mobius added local branding and minor customization like a different grille with the Mobius logo, but the vehicle was fundamentally a Chinese import. This pivot away from in-house design sparked controversy, raising questions about Mobius's commitment to its mission. The Mobius 3 was not a bad car, but it bore little resemblance to its utilitarian ancestors. Marketed as a premium SUV, it featured leather seats, a 12-inch infotainment system, and a sleek exterior. However, at $5.5 million, its price placed it in competition with more reputable and trusted brands like Toyota, whose second-hand imports offered better value. By shifting from manufacturing to assembling completely knocked-down kits from China, Mobius probably lost access to tax benefits such as reduced import duties and VAT exemptions available to local manufacturers. This decision triggered financial difficulties and contributed to the company's downfall. Mobius's core demographic, small and medium-sized enterprises in remote areas, lacked the purchasing power for such an investment, and urban consumers were hesitant to commit to an unproven brand. The operational challenges facing Mobius were staggering. In 2021, the company invested $330 million in a Nairobi plant, aiming to produce 8 Mobius 3 units per day. However, the facility quickly became a symbol of the company's overreach. Low sales led to severe underutilization, creating a vicious cycle of high fixed costs and insufficient revenue. Mobius's financial troubles compounded rapidly. The company accumulated a total debt of 649 million shillings, with a shareholder deficit of 389.1 million shillings. Adding to these pressures, the KRA, Kenya Revenue Authority, demanded 85.74 million shillings in unpaid taxes from 2014 to 2016, plus an additional 73 million shillings from their fundraising rounds. This decline came despite the company having raised over 6 billion across multiple funding rounds throughout its lifetime. Kenya's challenging automotive market only worsened these problems. With less than 10% of adults owning cars and 95% of the market being dominated by second-hand imports, Mobius faced an uphill battle. Although marketed as an affordable, brand-new SUV, the Mobius 3's 5.5 million price tag made it difficult to compete. Many potential buyers were hesitant to take a 5 million risk on an unproven company. The company's supply chain woes further complicated matters. Heavy reliance on imported parts exposed Mobius to exchange rate fluctuations and global supply chain disruptions, particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic. These challenges severely impacted production, further straining the company's finances. By 2024, after 13 years of operation, the culmination of these challenges forced Mobius Motors' board to make the difficult decision to shut down operations. On August 5, 2024, Nicholas Guibert announced that shareholders had agreed to liquidate the business under Section 393 of Kenya's Insolvency Act, with KVSK Sastry appointed to oversee the process. For many Kenyans, the collapse of Mobius was barely a footnote in the news cycle, a reflection of the brand's struggle with visibility and relevance. Those who had heard of Mobius either couldn't afford its vehicles or remained unconvinced of their value proposition. The company's pre-order strategy, which required a refundable deposit of 50,000 per vehicle, exposed deeper issues with consumer trust. Low conversion rates indicated a fundamental reluctance to commit to an unproven brand, regardless of its local origins. In a final twist, shortly after entering liquidation, Mobius accepted an offer from an undisclosed buyer. However, 6 months later, no updates or progress have been reported, leaving the fate of the company's assets and legacy in limbo. Establishing a car company is no easy task. Even in first-world economies, the odds of survival are slim. Tesla, one of the most successful electric vehicle manufacturers today, spent over 15 years struggling before it posted its first full-year profit. If Tesla, with all its resources, barely survived, then the challenge for Mobius in Kenya was even greater. After 13 years, Mobius Motors ultimately failed, but what they attempted to do was highly respectable. The story represents more than just a failed business venture. It embodies a missed opportunity to create jobs, strengthen Kenya's manufacturing sector, and support the Build Kenya, Buy Kenya movement. And that's the story of Mobius Motors, a bold vision that ultimately didn't come to fruition. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed it, leave your thoughts in the comment section, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.